See, now I let you pick that music to start off the mornings.
Yeah.
And it's nice. It's not, or no, I picked the morning. You picked that one, and it's nice and easy going. I think we need something a little heavier there.
I do too, and to be honest with you, it wasn't long enough. I barely got into my sharing, and I started as soon as we started to think. So we might need a one that gives a little bit more time when it comes to being able to share all this stuff. But
We'll up that dosage. No
yeah,
problem. Hey guys, thank you all for tuning in. I'm gonna sit up a little bit.
yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Kevin, how you doing?
Sure.
Guys, yes, we're at Cigars and More 2 today, you guys.
Yeah,
This is where we like to usually do our podcast from. But, you know, with some stuff going on, we've been doing them from Columbus.
Yeah.
But we have a guest for you guys today. Sterling, how you doing? Tom, how you doing?
Hey, really?
As you guys know, July 31st is the Cigars and More 2 Caldwell event. We're looking forward to that. And you guys can see the ticket prices and the deals are right there at the bottom. You guys can come in and get your tickets here at Cigars and More 2, or you can call them and reserve them. Sterling, not a new spot, a second spot. This is actually Cigars and More 2. If you guys haven't seen it yet, it is fashioned after Cigars and More El Segundo, which is right by LAX. It's very, very nice. The lounge chair is super nice. It's got beautiful chairs, beautiful artwork. It's so well decorated. This place is awesome, you guys. And Sterling, those winnings, you guys will see how they taste because I have some pictures that I'm going to put up later today. Thank you to everybody who donated cigars to me for winning the challenge. But
it's nice enough for you not to smoke them.
Yeah, I don't want to take too much time away because we do have a guest on, and I want to get him on the show as quickly as possible. Rob, how you doing?
Hey, Rob.
Rob actually just became a follower of ours on YouTube, so thank you very much for that. I'll tell you guys, we have Jerry McDonald, a.k.a. the California Hillbilly on Instagram. He is the National Sales VP for Caldwell Cigars, which is awesome. That'd be an awesome freaking job to have, I think. So without further ado, let's bring him on the show so he can properly. How you doing?
There we go.
Good, man.
Awesome. Pleasure to have you on. You know, I've told people before, I watch your morning show on Instagram just about every day because we go on at 8, from 8 to 8:30. I'll go refill the coffee, grab another cigar, and then sit down and wait for you to come on. It's true.
I'm flattered.
So if you do us a favor and just, let everybody know, who you are, what exactly goes into being the National Sales VP for a cigar company, and anything else you'd like to let them know about you.
So I'm Jeremy, or some call me Jeb, but I don't. There's a long story attached to that, but I typically respond to Jeremy. Yeah, so I'm the sales manager for Caldwell Cigars, and I have been in the industry. We're going on 20 years now, from working retail to repping to help establish and building Caldwell Cigars. So it's funny when you say, like, what does national sales manager entail, like, for Caldwell? Well, when we first launched, it really meant it was a fancy title and to nothing, because I was running around and it was just Robert, myself, and Jacqueline Sears, and a guy named Wilson, and we were kind of all doing everything, like trying to do marketing, trying to do this, trying to do direct sales, And over the years, we grew a sales team and such, and then I was like, oh, I guess I should learn what this means to be a national sales manager, because, like, I wear this title. Maybe I should figure this out, So it's funny. It's kind of like baptism by fire. So, it's definitely been a journey on a personal level, kind of growing into what that means, and and what it means for, like, my day to day with the company and so forth. And as we've grown, and, first it was Caldwell Cigars, and then we brought on the distribution of La Barba Cigars, and then we brought on the distribution and manufacturing of Room 101 Cigars, and then he left. So we changed our name as the overarching umbrella to Down and Back Distributors. We're still Caldwell Cigars, but we needed some kind of differentiation between the different companies, because we aren't the owners of La Barba. We aren't the owners of Room 101. But Room 101 left this past year, and he took his distribution to La Polina, but we still manufacture a couple of his cigars, and then we manufacture and distribute La Barba cigars. So, I mean, I do everything from minus coronavirus being in quarantine. Normally I would be out on the road. I work with our reps. I deal with key accounts. I do events. Kind of basically the company sets a goal on what they want to make, and I have to figure out how to get them to that point. And so the management of our guys and, you know, my own accord, like that's kind of what it is. It's like, all right, how do we get to this point? And you have to, you know, think outside the box. So that's definitely why I say it's something I had to kind of grow into, because projections and things like that, I had no understanding of when we first started the company, because we were just happy to sell a cigar. So we were like, someone bought our cigar, rad. We made.
So obviously with the whole COVID thing, I'm sure they understand if the numbers aren't exactly where they want them to, correct?
Yeah.
I mean,
The interesting thing about that, though, is even though, you know, there have been states where they still have curbside or that they weren't as affected by it. And so even though your number of sales, of course, is going to be hit by the virus because retailers sell your product, people were still buying a lot, like online through different, you know, brick and mortars that have websites and stuff. So like, actually we're sitting still pretty like good, like, thank God, because our expenditures went down to zero because we weren't on the road. So like, you know, you don't have to make as much to have the same profitability. So, I mean, like, despite the fact that we've all taken a hit, like it's not like we're, you know, we're not sitting in our corner crying. We've been blessed that people are still smoking our cigars. So, you know, it's just a very different way in which we used to do business.
Tom's letting us know that he bought his first Caldwell cigar last Saturday. Long live the king! And he grabbed it from Benny's in Illinois.
Nice.
Oh, nice. Thanks, man. Unless he hated it,
right? So, you know, as you try to hit your numbers, you know, and as you're taking care of that, obviously it's got to be stressful. So when you do your show in the morning, is that kind of a way for you just to kind of unwind and just talk to people? I mean, what was the whole idea behind starting that in the morning on Instagram?
yeah, man. You know, like basically the first month of like quarantine, we were just all like pulling our hair out. Everyone was like not knowing which way's up, which way's down. And like, you know, the part of the aspect of what I love is like about being out on the road is like sitting in shops, having conversations with guys. And I was just like, you know, why can't I use social media to actually sit with these guys and smoke with them? Because that's really what I want to do anyways, you know? And like, it's really what cigar smoking to me is about, is like the communal aspect of it, as far as like sitting down and like, you know, this is going to put us down together for an hour or so. And it just felt like I'm just going to host whoever wants to have coffee and cigars with me in the morning. And like, you know, it's funny because it kind of turned into this whole other like little thing, because like, I mean, there's been different manufacturers that come on and like hang out, and it's like, yeah, I'll bring them live on there because like these are friends, and it's been a cool way of really just kind of staying in contact with people, like the people that like friends that smoke our cigars. And it's actually been a way to kind of rekindle relationships with people that I like, you know, maybe they live in Pennsylvania or they live in Kentucky and I don't get to like hang out at their shop, but we can now sit in the morning and smoke a cigar together and like just hang out, you know? So it was really more like my own sanity, like starting it. So I had someone, because I was just sitting in my garage and it gets old, you know? And so it was just to like, I'm going to have a coffee and cigar in the morning anyways. Why not like see who else wants to join in? And yeah, it's kind of taken on its whole little own identity at this point.
nice.
I think that's kind of the same reason you started the morning show for us.
It's it pretty much nails on the head right there because I was bored. I didn't have any structure left, so I was waking up whatever time of day, not realizing how much time I was wasting. I needed something to keep myself going. I was going crazy. I saw some buddies also going crazy. Like, let's all just have a cigar together. We'll do it in the morning. Who watches? Cool. If you don't, it's fine too.
Yeah, and it's what's funny is it wasn't like another reason why I did it, you know, because this is only us talking, no one else is hearing this, is because like, you know, like I'm the national sales manager, but we have no like immediate sales going on, no one to manage because no one's out there. And it was also like, well, I got to be doing something. You know, I mean, like, look, man, I'm getting my company, like, you know, kept us on payroll and like a lot of other companies didn't. And I'm not judging them for it, but I mean, like, you know, like it's like I got to do something. It may not, it's not something that's monetizable in the sense, but it's like you just have to be out there. You know, so there was, you know, that as well as just like feeling like kind of useless and wanting to do something that just is out there, you know, putting it out there.
100% get that. Yeah, I think you take a little pride in that when your company backs you up like that. Like, hey, they want you. You don't want to lose you. You want to keep you coming back. You want to work harder in those moments, you know.
Yeah.
When everything else is going bad around you, that's that time to kind of dig in and just do something. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because we first started off like the first couple like hangouts was like it was much more cigar talk, and then it like quickly kind of derailed into us just talking everything from like pirates to like overtaking the world and like all kinds of, but that's like what you would do when you're sitting around smoking with someone anyways, you know what I mean? Like it, like, yeah, we can talk wrapper, binder, filler, and those like those conversations happen, but like really it's like you want to just get to know each other, you know.
And you were talking a couple of days ago on your show, and I still firmly believe that you should purchase a ride-on mower.
I still what?
You need to purchase that ride-on mower.
Yeah. It'll take me 8 seconds. It'll be amazing. I'll have to like house it. Everyone in my neighborhood will be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I work efficiently."
Boom. That's the key. Yes, key right there.
But you know, to get some of the cigar talk out of the way, so we get into other stuff as well. You guys have a whole line of cigars, and without getting into the specialty stuff, because maybe people can't find it everywhere, like the Anastasia or the Savages that Miguel's smoking right now. What about the traditional line that you guys have? You know, the Long Live the King, the King is Dead, Eastern Standard. I'm smoking Eastern Standard Sun-Grown. For those kinds, give us a little bit of background on those and maybe some blends and various.
Yeah, well, and then side note too, I'm smoking the Ricochet, the La Barba.
Very nice.
So I mean, you hit it on the head with like we debuted with Eastern Standard, King is Dead, and Long Live the King. Those are our core lines, our flagship brands, and they always will be. And when we came out, we started putting out other cigars, but what we realized is like we wanted to have essentially line extensions versus introducing line after line. So that's where like the Long Live the King Mofo comes from. That's where the Eastern Standard Sun-Grown comes from. It's where the Midnight Express comes from, because it's where Savages comes from. We basically decided we wanted to take our core and let everything else that we develop off of it be a development off of the core. So there's some sort of a variation of tobacco, but that it's all under like one kind of umbrella, even though the cigar might taste drastically different. Like the Mofo Long Live the King tastes nothing like the Long Live the King that's, in our core line, but we wanted it to be extensions of what was already there, because like in business, you always want to bring people back to like, what is your core? What is your company? Like what represents Caldwell? And that like the specialty tobaccos that we use and the uniqueness of them and the age of them in Long Live the King, Eastern Standard, and King is Dead, we wanted that to set the precedence for anything we released from there out. So It hasn't 100% played out that way because like we have like Blind Man's Bluff, and those are like a little bit more readily available tobaccos. They're not as aged. They're more kind of industry standard aged, where our core stuff is above and beyond as far as what the normal criteria for cigar would be on the market. So we just wanted to like set ourselves kind of apart in that regard with the blends that like, you know, when you smoke our cigar, we want it to be a special cigar. And even if you don't, it's not like right for your palate, that you can recognize something unique about it. We didn't want our, you know how like when you smoke a cigar and you like smoke it and you're like, I've smoked this 100 times before with different labels on it. We wanted our brand to like stand up where it was like, whether you like it or not, you're not going, I smoked this 100 times before. If you say you smoked it 100 times before, it's because you smoked 100 Eastern Standards or you smoked 100 Long Live the Kings. And I think that that's something we still like have held true to, that I really, really love about the, you know, the brand is the uniqueness of the blends based on Robert's, you know, style of blending alongside with William and Henderson Ventura. And then it's tobaccos that we use. And it's just, it's kind of like carving your own little niche. Like when we came to the market, the DR was not the hotbed for boutique and still not the hotbed for boutique. It's all Nicaragua.
Right.
Everything's about like upfront spice and like body and strength. And like Robert was like, no, I want to blend for flavor. And then wherever the strength lies, the strength lies. So like you'll notice in our portfolio, even our full-bodied cigars, to the industry standards, it's not full-bodied. You know, like it's full flavored, but it's not full strength.
And I think that's something people actually get confused a lot. Full bodied as opposed to full strength, you know. And that's, I'm glad that you talked about that right there. You know, I can't tell you how many times people will get the two confused or think they're interchangeable, which is unfortunate because it's hard to describe cigars to people when they don't understand that there is a difference.
Right. Like you can hand a Connecticut, you can hand an Eastern Standard to someone who, you know, might typically like fuller cigars, and it's a very full flavored cigar. It's just not heavy. You know, it's not a strong cigar, but it's still very like flavorful and like appeases that like desire. Like I want something big in flavor, but it's not a strong cigar whatsoever. No. You know, and it's been our downfall and our like biggest strength. It's kind of like a double-edged sword because like we don't blend for strength, and people are always like, you need to put something out that's just going to kick you in the dick. And it's like, yeah, but that's not what we smoke. That's not what we make. You know, we don't, and we're not trying to make a full-bodied cigar. We're not trying to make, we're just making it for flavor. And then you want enough strength in there so that it doesn't distract from the flavor, you know? So most of our stuff sits in the medium realm. That said, Long Live the King, I've had countless number of people tell me like Long Live the King is a medium bodied cigar. That cigar has 70% Ligero in it. Oh, that wow. Is a full bodied cigar and full flavored, but it is a full bodied cigar. The difference is it's 9-year aged Corojo Ligero. So it doesn't hit you in the same way. It's not up front. It still smokes smooth, but it has 70% of that cigar is Ligero. So, I mean, like, it is a full-bodied cigar. You can't argue it. It's just that we used really aged tobacco, so it's smoother. It's just not like a kick in the teeth.
Now, you know? Have you ever smoked a freshly rolled one where you get all of that?
Yeah, I don't like it.
Okay.
Big butter say that's gonna hurt.
Well, I mean, so I should say I have, but I've smoked a fresh rolled Long Live the King, but only fresh rolled. Those tobaccos are still 7-year to 9-year aged. So it's only like that the flavors are much more poignant, but it's not really stronger because it's still very aged. Like if you just took, you know, Corojo that was just harvested and like cured and you rolled a Long Live the King, the thing would be unsmokable, first of all, with that much Ligero in it. It just wouldn't burn.
Right.
And second of all, it would just be, that's all you would taste, would be just the intense, like incredibly intense spice. Like there'd be no balance to it. So it'd be interesting though. Next time I'm in the DR, maybe I can get some like fresh rolled ones and then send them to you guys, and I'll see like, look how bad they taste.
I would definitely be up to giving it a try and seeing, as opposed to one we can get here in the shop. That would be interesting.
I 100% would like to see Frankie do that. Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. I'm on board to have him do it.
Even going on.
Real quick, you guys, for those of you guys just joined us, thank you very much for joining us today. We are on with Jeremy Mcdonald, aka the California Hillbilly on Instagram. He is the national sales manager for Caldwell Cigars, and we are having our Caldwell event here at Cigars and More 2, July 31st from 6 to 9 p.m. Tickets will be $20. They'll include a drink, snack, and cigar, and raffle ticket. Of course, we have all the deal specials right there at the bottom for you guys. You guys can get your tickets here at the shop, or you guys can give them a call and reserve it for the day of. We're talking obviously Caldwell Cigars. Again, I'm smoking this for the first time ever, actually, the Eastern Standard Sun Grill.
Yeah, I'm having my first sandwiches right now too, and it's smoking incredibly well. And honestly, I could judge the rapper for the band first. Like, man, I need to have that in my life, and I'm really glad I picked this one up because I'm just enjoying the hell out of it. I do that. I will go into a new order and like that band's sticking out to me. I need to smoke this. I need to have this in my life, and this is definitely one that works out very well. I love the look to it.
Yeah, you know, one of the things like when I always love this like simple illustration that Rob always like gave when we were talking about like the art and the stuff and how we were going to band our product. You know, he was like, look, when you're walking down the street and you see a girl and like you're checking her out, right? Like it's like her attractiveness, her beauty that captivates you, right? So then you go over and talk to her. Then you start talking to her and you find out whether or not like she's got a good personality or whether she's like, you know, doesn't. And then that's what draws you into her, right? So it's like when we went through the branding, Rob was like, I want to have something that's eye-catching, that's art. It doesn't have to do with cigar. It doesn't have to be like, let's follow the formula. It's just art. And then from there, we need substance behind the cigar, you know. And like it needs to be something that'll like keep their attention, you know, but like something needs to bring them in. And, you know, packaging a lot of times I think gets overlooked in that regards because people can go like way understated, which works. They can go super old school, like tobacco, and it like they all have their place, but like it kind of represented us as a company because our grandfathers are not from Cuba. Like Robert is a 6'3" white kid born in Miami, you know, like with an accent that I don't know where it comes from, you know, like it, and like we didn't have that heritage, so we didn't want to represent something in cigars that wasn't us. So it was like, well, let's just put art. So like Savages, you have a steampunk guy on there, and it's like this weird. What does this have to do with a cigar? Or like Eastern Standard, who's the dude on the band? And it's like, it's just art. Like that's what it is, and like because cigars are art, you know. So it's something that I've always liked, but you know, people, it's something that I always identified with the brand that it doesn't really have an image, so to speak. Like we're not the skull and crossbones guys. We're not the like tatted up. I mean, we might have tats, but like it's not like a cultural thing, you know. For us, it's like we just are dudes that like tobacco, so let's just put art on it, and like, you know, whoever receives it, you know.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So if you were going to recommend Caldwell cigars, and if you want to include La Barba on there, that's fine too. Let's say, you know, they maybe never have had any of your guys' stuff that you carry, but, you know, they want a good day of smoking. Where would you have them start? Where would they go maybe midday for a couple, and then where would you have them finish out?
So, I mean, obviously, depending on the person's palate, you know, is kind of where I'd start. But, I mean, if you were just to give a cross, like, I would always start, like, Eastern Standard, right? Like, it's it's a Connecticut that's, you know, not like the tagline we used for years. Like, it's not your daddy's Connecticut. You know, our dads smoked Romeo and Juliet or Macanudo or Monte Cristo, things like these classic brands. So it was kind of like our spin off of something classic. So it's got a lot of flavor in it, and it's using a hybridized wrapper, like the Brazilian Arapiraca with Ecuadorian shade grown. So it has a bit of spice to it, but it's a creamy cigar. It's rich, but like it's an any time of day, you know, smoke. So I always like to give that because I think it shows, one, what we do, and plus it's super approachable. And then, you know, like, I mean, the portfolio's grown and grown, so this conversation changes what I'd recommend over the years. But I think Long Live the King. Well, you could take The King is Dead and Long Live the King. The original concept behind that was the old, what is it, like when a king died, the next king was rising, right? So Rob wanted to design a cigar that when you would smoke would lead into another cigar. And then we realized that that's impossible to do because people smoke whatever. Like some guys start off with a double Maduro, 6x60 in the morning. And like, so that doesn't work for them, or maybe you ate something that's spicy, so it's going to affect what you smoke anyways. But the concept behind the brands were to be like Eastern Standards there, for any time. And then like we had The King is Dead, and you'd smoke that, and then it and then you'd have Long Live the King. So it would kind of go in sync with each other. But so, I mean, if you take that frame of thought for our core line, you could do that. But like I have found that like for me, King is Dead is my like everyday go-to. It's my cigar. But it's kind of love it or hate it cigar. Like that's what I've realized. I mean, we've been out 6.5 years. Some guys think it's like the bee's knees and like the best cigar they've ever smoked. And other guys are like, I don't get this cigar at all. And so like the longer we've been out, the more I understand like, oh yeah, like just because you make a cigar doesn't mean that everyone's going to like it. It has its own audience.
Right.
Which was kind of the idea as well, is that like Eastern's, like if you smoke Padron 2000 and then you smoke a Padron 64 and you smoke a Padron 1926, it's all Padron. It's just like different variants and refinements of the same cigar, right? But like our cigars are polar opposite. Like there is no correlation in us like between Long Live the King as there is with Eastern Standard. They're different smokers. Sometimes they might smoke them both, but like they're geared for different people. So we like, when we come out with a cigar, it's like, what market haven't we met, with a blend that we can try to make something that might appeal to them. And like, that's really where like, I think La Barba Cigars has come in. That's really been an aid to our overall portfolio because Rob just won't really put out something spicy and peppery because he doesn't like that. Tony, on the other hand, has no problem putting out a Dominican that tastes kind of like a Nicaraguan. It's spicy, it's rich, it's earthy, it's like, and so it's kind of filled in some gaps of stuff that we didn't have and probably will never have because it's just not Rob's cup of tea, and so that's been kind of the cool thing of like having the down and back where it's Caldwell Cigars and La Barba Cigars, is because Tony has a totally different take on tobacco. So like when someone wants like, after a steak dinner, I'm not grabbing the Eastern Standard, I'll grab the Ricochet, or I guess we do make a full body, like, with the Last R. That is definitely something that like holds up after a rich, meal. But like we have the Long Live the King Mofo, and it's a San Andreas Maduro, right? And so is the Ricochet. But like I'll smoke this 10 times over 10 over that cigar because it's just my palate. Like I don't like it, like, and like I think that's okay to be like upfront about. We like what we like,
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. Real quick here in the comments though, Where did it go? Tom says he can't wait to try the Long Live the King. Rob says that the artwork is great. And Sterling wants to know where he can buy these cigars. Sterling, for that, you can actually get these at Cigars and More, Cigars and More 2, Cigars and More El Segundo, all owned by the same guy. And other than that, Jeremy, where else can they find them? Are they all over the U.S.? Do you guys have certain territories where you're in? Where can somebody find them if they want to go to a local brick and mortar?
I mean, we're in every state, in any of the probably larger cities. Like we've got national and international distribution. So this depending on where you're at out of the country, we have distribution in Germany. I'm gonna forget all of them, Holland, but like we're in like 13 other countries, right? In smaller doses because it's predominantly Cubans out there, but like it's a growing thing, and we wanted to get into that. So like we've been out there and promoted our stuff and pushed it, and so we have it. I mean, honestly, like whatever state you're in, you can find our stuff. They may not have our whole portfolio because we do have kind of a large portfolio, but I mean, you don't have to it's not a needle in a haystack to find us. You can, so, a couple of years ago, or it might have been a very different story. We'd be like, here's our 5 guys, but no, but I mean, like we've been around long enough where we have a pretty good footprint, in every state. So,
Anthony's letting us know that he can find them over in Atlanta as well. And then 2 questions for you. Where can they find them in Riverside, California? And then are you guys doing any internet sales with any of the big guys?
So in Riverside, I'm trying to remember I think Helios is out there. Is he Riverside? I believe he is. I'm spacing on the retailers out there in Riverside County, but Helios carries our stuff. I'd have to think. I'd have to look at a sheet to see who carries what. Even though I'm in California, that's kind of the good thing and the bad thing, though, is I have a rep out here, so he handles all of our stuff and the sales. So I'm a little out of touch with where exactly the distribution is and what stores, but I know we do have distribution. I know Helios, which I'm pretty sure. I mean, he's in Riverside. I know he carries our stuff. Mid. And are we going to? What was the question? Are we going to sell online to compete with the big boys?
Are you guys partner with any Famous or JRs?
So some of them, yeah. It's one of those things that's kind of it gets looked at as selling your soul to the devil, or some people say it's like a necessary evil, but there is a certain aspect of the big boy catalogs. One will never compete with Macanudo or any of the big guys on there because one, they own those catalogs, General, Altadis, Ashton, whichever one you go to, JR, Thompson, but they also do get your brand out there. Because if you're in Idaho and there's only 2 shops in your state and you're a cigar smoker, you're predominantly going to be buying online, and not everyone's going to go to a Small Batch or an Anthony's or a Fine Ash, some of these guys that have online presences that are brick and mortar. So yes, we do. Typically, our whole portfolio is not on there, though. So it's a more limited menu because, you have to walk. It's like dancing with someone. Their foot goes here. You got to put it here. So you don't want to give them so much where if something goes awry, they can turn around and crush you. But you kind of need to be dancing, it's like, even if we're not, it's like on a major league baseball team, even if you're just on the bench and you're not playing ball, you need to be on the team and sitting on the bench. So we do deal with them in smaller capacities with both Caldwell Cigars and La Barba. Not all of them, though. There's a few that we won't touch with the 10-foot pole, and then there's and just because of history and stuff. And then there's other ones that have been very good to us, you know, so it just depends.
Absolutely. I totally get that. Yeah, Paul's absolutely right. Paul, or Sterling rather, you could always call Cigars and More, any one of the locations, and find out what we have as far as inventory goes for Caldwell, and put an order in through that way as well if you want to go that route.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, you want all the, like, we would love all of our sales to be direct through B&M, whether you ship to people or whatever. Like we love to promote that, you know, and that's our goal. And that's actually who built our brand. It's not like, you know, it's stores getting behind going, all right, I'll get behind you guys. And then they're the only guy in town that sells it. And there's like 5 dudes that come there for it. But then eventually it's like those 5 guys shared it with 5 other guys. And then the store down the, you know, the next store in that region's like, well, I'll pick up those too. And that's how we built our brand, was direct relationships with B&Ms, you know, so that kind of goes into the same thing of like, well, you don't want to whore yourself out online, because you want to be able to protect the guys that have helped build you, because the big guys, plural, you know, just have bigger means and reach than any specific brick and mortar does. And so you don't want to take customers away from them to sell to just a giant thing. But, you know, it's kind of going back to that same thought. There are guys where, like, especially during coronavirus, you know, like online sales have shot through the roof, whether you're a local B&M and you're just shipping, or I'm sure the big boys have gone up, you know, 200% minimum. Because people want to smoke, and they were smoking even more because they might have smoked 1, 2, 3 cigars a week. But if you're home 24/7, you're probably smoking 5 to 10, you know, now. And so people's habits kind of went up. It's just the means in which they were getting them might have changed a little bit.
Right.
Absolutely. And you don't want to alienate anyone just because if they've got to shop online because of their area. Maybe, you know, sometimes price a little better online too. I got no problem with that, but as we're promoting down the road again, guys, on the 31st, we have an event here. I don't ever want anyone to lose the experience of being with everyone to smoke a brand together and enjoy it. You can still get good deals there, but I think the most important thing when you come to the lounge is not so much just price point, but the experience and the ability to be with other smokers. You don't get the same. You don't get the same time when you're by yourself at the house smoking. Yeah. Cigars are very social. I would never want to lose it. And I love doing the show like this, but I also love being in a room with a bunch of guys smoking cigars, having a good time.
And there's one other thing too, you know, like we've done certain things, like California being like we I mean, you guys understand this. Like, we've had a really rough go the past couple of years with tobacco tax, and it's like, and then every manufacturer got their distributor license, and then it was like, and we were sitting back trying to figure it out, like what to do as a company, because this is actually, we launched in California, which is totally different. Every other company launches Miami and then works their way, you know, across. We started in California because Robert's prior brand, it had the most legs in California. Mm-hmm. And me being from here, so we were like, well, let's launch in California and give these dudes that gave you your start, like, let's give them the 2 steps ahead of Miami, where typically when a cigar gets released, you know, it's 2 weeks before we see it in California. It's just, so we kind of did that. And then another thing we did during the whole tax situation with California is we created the Pacific Standard, which is a California exclusive cigar that's available year round, but we had calculated with taxes so that it could be something that was approachable and affordable. And so that's another thing, like we try to take into consideration like states that have very high taxes, and how can we kind of counter that or help that territory and give us something that's like, you know, specific for that. Like, we do these manzanitas that are 44 by 4, and we do them in all of our blends, but originally we designed them for the East Coast because winters, people want short cigars, you know, so we put all of our blends in these little manzanita sizes. And then what happened is we started sampling them out, and the rest of the US was like, dude, we want those because they're like a good 20-minute smoke, you know. know. So like we're always trying to be responsive and adapt to like what's going on around us, you know, because you have to with business. Otherwise, you keep doing the same thing over and over again, and all of a sudden you're like no longer relevant, and you're like, what happened?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And you know, with this current trend that's been going on with cigars, everybody wants the bigger ring gauges. You know, the 6x60s, the 7x70s. Do you see that as something that's going to stick around for a while? Or do you think that's something that's maybe phasing out a bit? Or how have you guys seen it going?
I mean, I think the trend is curbing and going down. That said, man, there are stores that like their top sellers are 60s and 70 ring gauges. So, you know, it's still most definitely a very relevant, you know, thing. We won't, we have done, we do a 60 in the Long Live the King, and outside of in our core lines, that's the only 660 we make. And honestly, it's the only reason we make it is because we really liked how it tasted as a 660, because typically like you blend off a Robusto size, a 5x50 when you create your blend, and then you would just modify those tobaccos with the same percentages according to the size. So as it gets bigger, you know, it might have been, but so what ends up happening is, I'm sorry, you wouldn't typically. So if it has 20% Ligero and 30% Habano, in the 660, it would have 20% Ligero and 30%, but it smokes differently because it's a bigger cigar. So
Right.
like, we modify our blends depending upon the size. So they actually give you a different experience. So like the 660 of Long Live the King is much sweeter because like there's Pelo de Oro in there, and because there's more of it in there, it showcases, you know, and like, whereas if you smoke the heater, which is, or my style is jalapeno, which is a Lancero, there is no Ligero in it because the Corojo wrapper has enough spice that like if you were to try to blend it to size, it would be a nasty cigar, you know. So like between our Vitolas, the blends change, but to answer your question, I think it's curbing like the really large sizes. 60s is standard, you know, now though for like, but I mean like there's shops in certain parts of the country I've been in that don't sell anything but 60 ring gauges and up, 60 to 80s. So like, I mean, I went into this store and the guy was like, do you have any 60s? And I'm like, I have a Long Live the King 60. I have Blind Man's Bluff in a 60. And we have, you know, a La Barba red 6x60. And he's like, cool, I'll take those ones. Okay. Like, you know, I mean, every market is different. So, you know, we haven't gotten heavy into the larger sizes. We'll never, like, you'll never see I know you should never say never, but you'll never see like a 70 ring gauge Caldwell. It just won't happen. Because honestly, and I'm not down talking to anyone who likes large ring gauges, but the reality is when if you have a 70 ring gauge, you have to have, that's like 12 to 14 leaves of tobacco. If you're using ultra premium tobacco like we use, that's a $30 cigar. Who's going to pay $30 for a 770? Nobody.
Right.
And like, you have to use lesser grade in order to make it an affordable cigar. And it doesn't mean they don't taste good, but what it does mean is like, we're first and foremost about the quality of the tobaccos we use. And then the size, we typically go more for like connoisseur sizes or old school sizes, like, you know, Lonsdales, Coronas, things like that, because that's what we like to smoke.
Yeah.
Our Toros sell more than our Lanceros do because that's what the market likes. Okay, so we make a Toro, but we wouldn't, like, there's a certain level of like, I guess it's a little bit of this, you know, where we're like, we're not making a 70. Because honestly, if we were to make a 70, it would be no one would buy it. Because the guy who smokes Caldwell isn't a 70 ring gauge smoker.
And that's a great way to put it. Yeah, I totally understand that.
Yeah, you got to know your audience and
Yeah.
kind of cater to them first.
Yeah.
The big sizes are fine. Yeah, I'm not a big fan. 60 is about as large as I want to go, but I've got no problem trying those bigger guys once in a while. It's not something I'm going to keep going back to every time. And it's got to make it more difficult to make something that you're not a fan of and then try to sell that versus something that you definitely get behind yourself. Like, I can smoke this with a group of people I just met and, show them how much this is good, get them into it. And I'm sure you'll find a few more people that way versus just pushing something giant because giant things are good right now.
It's kind of like you asking your lady or man, I ain't discriminating, but like, hey, I want to change it up tonight. I want to go let's do this. And they're like, they oblige you because like you're in a relationship or they don't. And, and you're like, oh, okay. And then you kind of go back to like what like, hey, I got no problem with large ring gauges, but it's not what I sit at home like thinking about, man, I really want to smoke that 70 ring gauge, or 80 or 90, whatever it might be,
Dean, who runs a show called Smoking Salads on Monday nights, said they smoked Caldwell on Monday, and he said they smoked the Mad Mofo and paired it with an Ardbeg Weed Beastie Scotch, which I've never heard of. I gotta be 100% honest. I'm gonna try that out. And he said they paired very well together. And then KMB Golf over on YouTube was asking again, what size do you blend for? And I believe you said that was Robusto.
Okay, say that again.
What size do you blend for? And then you said it was a Robusto.
Yeah, I mean that's an industry standard. Is people will blend off of a 5x50. Like that's typically how you just do it. If when you create, you're gonna come up with a new line, and all your samples, they'll all be in a 5x50 or maybe like a 46 by 5.5, like a Corona. But that's kind of the standard. You start with a certain outline, and then you go out from there. So that's it's also why I think a lot of I personally, whenever I try a new cigar, I try to smoke it in the Robusto because I feel like that's probably the most true intent to what the blend is supposed to be. So regardless of who makes a cigar, if I'm like in a shop, my size might be a Corona, or I might like that I love to smoke. But like if I see it's like Robusto, Toro, Corona, Torpedo, and a Churchill, I'm going to always go to the Robusto when I try it because I'm like, I think that's probably, it's like trying a meal from a chef. I want to, like, before you modify it and like, oh, it's too salty or this, the first time I order it is always like just no substitutions. I want how they designed it because I figured I want to understand what they were trying to communicate with the meal. And the same thing with cigars. Like, I want to know what this dude was trying to get across with this cigar. So,
yeah, that's an awesome point. And just a little bit off of Caldwell cigars, real quick. We're big supporters of Lug Cigar Club, and the July box they actually got a Lost and Found cigar, which is one of Rob's side projects, I guess. What can you tell us about Lost and Found?
So Lost and Found actually started and established itself before Caldwell cigars came back to the market. So in between Winwood cigars and then Caldwell cigars, Lost and Found happened. And it was originally Impromptu Cigars, and then it changed for legal reasons, the name. But what the concept behind the brand was so when Rob was doing Winwood, he was doing the Factory Fresh, which were cigars that were rolled, packed, and shipped the same day so that it could give the consumer the closest experience to a fresh rolled cigar as possible. So there would be no inventory lingering in the warehouse at the end of each day. And it was something that he really loved. And it was like this concept of just like people go to the factories and then they smoke whatever cigar it is. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is so much, like it's so different and it's amazing. And it's like, because those tobaccos haven't married yet, and so you're really getting the flavors of each one of those tobaccos. So it's not very well rounded. It's very like this flavor and this flavor and this flavor. And it's a really cool experience and way to smoke a cigar. So when he stopped with when he stopped with Winwood, he was like, and he was coming, like figuring what to do. He was like, let's go the other direction. And he's like, let's go to factories and find old cigars that are in factories. And we'll just put them out under our own branding, tongue-in-cheek marketing, but it gives people the experience and the ability to smoke something that's 12 years old. you know, that's 10 years old, 7 years old, whatever it might be, but give them kind of the polar opposite. Like they didn't have to sit on this cigar and age it for 10 years. You can just buy this and see what an aged, and we never put out what those cigars are because a lot of these factories, you know, it's overflow, an overrun of a specific project, and they don't want it out there. And that's why they're still there, because they don't know what to do with these cigars. So Rob would buy them and then not say who they disclose where they come from. And then he'd put it out. And if there was, maybe there was 1,000 cigars. So that run might've been like 5 packs, 200 or whatever it might be. And it's really just been a fun project because it's kind of like a grab bag. Like you don't really ever know what you're going to get, but you can always guarantee it's something aged. And some of the cigars people have figured out over the years, like what they are. And that's cool. Like we're not like, but it's like not something that's ever promoted. And it has a lot more playroom because it's not under the like guidelines so much of like a company. Like it doesn't have to be PC. It can be like offensive and funny and all this stuff because like it's here and gone. I mean, Rob has so many cease and desists on his wall from Lost and Found series that like the company, like, so like Land of Lakes, Butter, he did the Land of Snakes. Well, he got a cease and desist. So he framed it and put it on the wall, but it was like, it's put out and then it's gone before they could do it. Like, we're like, all right, we won't sell it again.
So sorry about that. Yeah.
So it's just a fun tongue-in-cheek thing. And now that brand is coming under our umbrella. So it eventually, because it's been a confusion to a lot of people. Like they'll call me up and be like, hey, can you get me, No Lunch Money, the new one? Because like they like the cause behind it and it's like raising money and awareness, right? And I'm like, I can, but I can't. You know what I mean? Like it's not a part of our portfolio. So I can connect you to, Robert, but it's not really like something we don't have a price list. I don't have anything to give you on information. If you have an account with us, it doesn't mean you have an account with Lost and Found. So it's been its own separate thing, but we're going to bring it in largely because of like the FDA and everything else that's like happening. It'll come under our umbrella. And so like our next series that we're launching is the first Lost and Found series that's going to be launched under Caldwell's umbrella. So we will be the ones will be distributing it. And so, I mean, it's a really cool project, but it's just fun. Like he goes to different factories, finds out what's good. I mean, you name a factory, he's probably bought something from them and put out a series. And it's just fun. And I've heard people like say like, yeah, you're charging $10 for the super aged cigar that was probably $2. And it's like, if people only knew some of the stuff we put out that were LEs under certain companies that when they were on the market were in the high teens or even $20 ranges, and we're putting it out for 10, plus it's got like, 10, 15 years of age on it. Like, it's just a fun thing. Like it's a grab bag. You might like it, you might not, but it's a fun way to smoke something super aged.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to trying the one that we got from Luxury. And again, you guys, July 31st is our Caldwell event here at Cigars and More 2. You guys can find all the details about it right there at the bottom ticker. If you guys want tickets, you guys can call Cigars and More 2 to reserve one or come in the shop and pick one up. And we're down to the last few minutes here. So, again, a little away from cigars. You also have a band, correct?
I do. I have my alter ego.
Find you, and what kind of music is it? What can you tell us about that?
I mean, like, it's so I've played in bands since I was like 14. Played different instruments, sang, whatever. It's always been something that it's a part of me. I think that actually gravitates, like, people into cigars are like into art of some form, and like for me, it's music. Like I've always, I love music, and it was a couple years ago, I had been out of playing for a while, and I started writing all these songs, and then I was like, you know what, it's time to get a band back together and like just do this for fun. And it's my outlet, you know, like, so I mean, like the band's called Louder's the Roar. We're on Spotify and all the like streaming platforms, and it's just like, you know, cigars by day, rock and roll by night. You know, it's like it's always been me, so it's cool. And it's cool that Robert, you know, concerning Caldwell Cigars, is like very much a proponent. Like, he's a big art collector, hence why we have art on our bands. You know, I'm very much into music, so cigars are always tied into music with me. You know, like, we practice and then we sit and smoke cigars. You know, like this is a part of our life, but it accompanies us in whatever we do, whatever those passions are. And so like music has always been that for me. So we're loud. It's you know, I played in punk bands growing up and stuff, and it's kind of a mixture of everything I grew up playing, but a little bit more intelligent, I guess, now. Not so angry at the world as a blanket statement, but like, you know, we I don't know, just want to play rock and roll, man. So our last show was before coronavirus hit. It was awesome though, because we played and we actually had Caldwell sponsor the show. So we got done playing, and then we had like 50 people smoking cigars on this patio of this venue, and the venue's like, what in the world is going on? And I'm like, this is like the ultimate night for me. Get to play music, my friends are there, and now we're gonna drink and smoke cigars all night. Like, and it's just fun. But I was like, why not mix the both of them together? You know?
That's awesome. Yeah. That is awesome. Well, we're coming up to the top of our hour, so we thank you for your time. Hopefully, if everything calms down within the next few weeks, maybe you can make the trip up. But of course, we understand if it's not possible. But again, thank you very much for being on the show today.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. Can I say one quick little thing?
Absolutely.
I forgot, because like you guys are doing this and it's super cool, and I love like what's happening. So Tony and I started what we're calling 4 Shots, which is kind of a similar concept. It's a podcast / going live on YouTube and all that stuff. And we're doing a talk show of industry guys. We're reversing the roles. So like we're interviewing the guys that always interview us. So you guys might need to be a guest on it. And basically we want to get like, we tell kind of behind the curtain, like stories from the road and all this kind of stuff. But like we have one tonight, and we do have an industry guy like Brian Matola of Illusione is going to be on. But like the point of it is to kind of flip the entire thing, because I think consumers, you know, you guys do all this like hard work, and all these guys do blogs, interviews, but like not a lot of people get to know who's behind them. So like, and their stories. So we have a series. We're doing our second one tonight, but it'll be every Tuesday at 5 p.m. West Coast time, and we're going to interview interviewers and consumers and stuff. So, but it'll be all done from, you know, the industry guys doing it. So it's just a fun thing, and we call it 4 Shots because we start off the show with 4 shots. So it goes a little haywire, but I'm not just saying it for a plug, but it's just like it's a fun thing that we're excited about doing, because we get to interview like consumers and retailers and stuff that don't typically get to be in the spotlight in that way. So, you know, we'll have to set something up. So, you know, you interviewed us and me, so we can have you on there and we'll interview you guys.
Yeah, I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm liking it.
And you got to do 4 shots with us. Unless you're sober, that's your only. You can get off the hook. We'll leave it if you're actually sober.
Oh, I'm not. That's not a possibility for me.
Yeah, you just let us know when you want us on, and we'll make sure we're available. Fantastic.
Awesome.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for being on. We'll let you get going and finish up your day. And Mike?
Yeah, thank you so much for being on with us. Hope to see you soon.
Oh, man, thanks so much for having me.
Awesome.
Right.
All right, guys. Well, that'll do it for us today on the Second Third podcast. You guys, that was Jeremy McDonald, He is the national sales manager for Caldwell Cigars. Again, we are having our Caldwell event at the end of the month, so make sure you guys are available for that. If you guys want to come into Cigars and More 1, 2, or El Segundo beforehand, try a couple of their cigars out. Then you can come in and get all the great deals. That'd be a great way to start off with Caldwell. I think they're a great company, and I absolutely enjoy their cigars.
And Jeff is absolutely wrong in the comments. We can drink. I know I can still. See me in like 2 months. I don't know. Maybe the tolerance will go down even further. That's one thing I totally messed up yesterday, doing the whole cheat day.
Yeah,
I didn't have a drink. I know I could.
I had a Jack and Coke, and I loved it.
Yep. I felt like I betrayed myself. So I'll wait till next cheat day. It's coming up sooner or later. And other than that, guys, you'll have a great one. We will be back on tomorrow morning for the last Great American Morning of the week, and we will see you again Saturday, of course, for our Saturday show, the last third of the week. All right, guys. Yeah, that's all I got.
That'll do it. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Have a good one.